Welcome to the Somewhat Frank podcast, hosted by me, Frank Gruber, and joined by my friends and colleagues, Jen Consalvo and John Guidos. This podcast explores the latest trends and advancements in technology and business, including emerging startups and how they shape today while looking forward towards the future. We also enjoy testing new gadgets and products and sharing our findings too, along with our favorite pop culture picks like music, books, and what we're streaming. This podcast is produced in collaboration with our company, Established. Ready to dive in? Time to be somewhat frank. Welcome back to the Somewhat Frank podcast. I'm your host, Frank Gruber. I'm joined today by my colleagues and friends, Jen Consalvo, Simon Kahan, and Jamilah Corbitt. Jamilah, welcome. You're the first time on the podcast.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. We'll start with you. We kind of go around the horn here, and I guess we're talking. We should start with you. So, what are you excited? What have you been up to? What's the latest? Tell us a little bit about what you've been working on, or what you're up to.
Yeah, of course, work dominates my life, but personally, I'm prepping my summer body. So I've been working out 5 days a week, a mix between strength training and Pilates. But for some reason, I can never stretch. Like I'm stretching and I'm just never satisfied. So I'm trying to work that out. But that's going to be summertime, ready for it to be here, ready for all the barbecues. So I've just been prepping for summer, which is here.
Love it. That's great. And that's pretty impressive. I don't know if I can do 5 days a week. I've been trying to do that. It's hard. I think I was told I need to do like 45 minutes of exercise every day, but it's difficult to slip that in. But I have recently gotten ambitious enough to try to run at least a mile a day, which I haven't done that 30 days straight ever, I don't think. So I saw a friend do that recently, and I was like, oh, I think I could try that. And now I'm like wondering, is that a bad idea? Is my body going to like break down? Like, I don't know. Has anybody run a mile on this a day for like 30 days straight?
Nope.
No.
I know. What would happen to me? Am I just going to wither away? Like, I don't know.
You're going to transform. But what I will say is that what I've done and what's been helpful for me is incorporating it into my daily, like incorporating exercise into my daily routine. Mm-hmm. So I woke up one day, I'm going to tell you like the genesis of how all this started. I woke up one day about 5 months ago and said, you know what? I sleep in too late. And late for me is like 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I was like, I sleep in too late. So I need to start working out a little bit more. So I started waking up around 5:30 and then I work out. So I wake up, get up, walk the dog. So for me, that's my little warm up. And then I come back into the house and I actually work out for about 30 minutes. And that's all I need. And I've been doing that 5 days for the last 5 or 6 months.
Wow. Great job. That's really inspiring. I'm going to keep you in mind as I'm like thinking about getting up at 5, especially. That's hard. But good. Once you do it, it's not hard, right? Like once you get kind of in the routine, you just got to try to get to bed earlier than before.
Yeah, it becomes routine.
Totally. All right, Jen, what have you been up to?
Let's see. Back in the swing of things after a little holiday weekend break, I went on down to Kent Island. So for those of you unfamiliar, think about the Eastern Shore, Maryland area, right near the Bay Bridge. So it's this little island area. A friend of mine from high school has a lovely home down there and invited lots of myself and a bunch of high school friends. And we all met up for some boating and some swimming and seafood and just good times. And it was awesome. I will say, I didn't realize, I think a lot of the area is probably a little bit older demographic because on Memorial Day or that Sunday, we went out to this fun little bar to hang out. And I swear, all the people on the dance floor were like 70 plus. It was like the geriatric Memorial Dance rage.
Wow.
It was awesome. So much fun.
That does sound fun. You guys probably, I can't even imagine what that would look like with you're all jumping in with your moves and their moves. Like that must have been a real.
You know what? I think
on the dance floor, I mean.
we have to reset. Like these folks were just like, there was no difference. They were getting down. They were having fun. They were partying. Age didn't seem to mean a thing. That's so great. I think that's, I notice that more and more these days. And like when it comes to how people dress, the music, the band themselves looked like, I don't think there was anyone under the age of maybe 55 or 60. It probably ranged like there were like 7 guys in the band. They were amazing. Harmonizers, every instrument. And it probably ranged from 55 to probably 80, years old in the band, and they played for hours and they rocked it. It was phenomenal. So I really think, we've talked about age on this before and the future of aging, and I think it's really shifting.
It's just a number, and Simon, that gives you some ambition, a place to live, right? You're saying you want to go down, you don't want to go past 75 or so, but it sounds like that's the place to go.
I've recently changed that to a nice 78 or something with advancements in medicine, but I'm still on the fence. Well, that's way more productive of a story. I went back to Vermont, my hometown, to build a stone wall with my dad because my older brother called me a city slicker, which sounds like kind of like a goofy, cartoony insult, but it actually really hurt my feelings. So I went back to Stratford, and my dad and I built a stone wall, and now I can like wear flannels confidently, and so it was a pretty productive week for me.
Tell me more about this stone wall. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're literally like picking up stones and you mortaring them, or you like, how high are we talking? Like, what's the purpose?
So I'm just getting started in my masonry hobby. So it's pretty small. It's like 3 layers, but we have to lay a bunch of it's called ledge. It's like kind of like gravel. You lay that down. It's a retaining wall, so we backfilled it with a lot of dirt. Admittedly, we did use an excavator for some of the heavier rocks because
they're heavy.
I'm not very strong. But yeah, it was a great experience, and now I feel true Vermonter.
Great. That's awesome. Can't wait to see how far of a fence are we talking? Like, we talking miles of fencing, or what is this like?
No. So it's probably like 20 feet.
Okay.
Long. But it's a work in progress. Like there's a lot of farm left to put walls around. So
okay,
I'm working on it.
That's awesome. Nice productive work, and you can see your work getting done right there, real time. Speaking of which, you mentioned we were talking about work. John is not here today. John Guidos. He is down in Florida. He is enjoying himself. I think probably trying to find some treasure or catch some sharks. I'm not really sure. I think
he's on a boat as we talk. I think he's boating right now. He's boating.
He's definitely fishing. Let's cut away right now live to what Johnny's doing. All right. So let's dive back in here. So looks like he's having a good time. Good for him. It's good to take breaks, and it sounds like he might hook a fish here soon. All right. So a lot of things happen in the world. Lots of AI news. I feel like everything's AI lately, but wanted to jump in some of the bigger things happening. So OpenAI and Apple. We talk a lot about OpenAI. They're doing a lot. And one of the big things though that happened over the last week was this deal between Apple and OpenAI kind of surfaced. And what that means is Apple is actually close to finalizing a partnership with OpenAI where ChatGPT will be incorporated into OS 18, which basically means they're gonna improve Siri. The first somewhat frank we ever talked about years, like a while back. Literally, I was talking about how bad Siri was and how like it never understands anything I say, and I think they're gonna try to like improve it with their technology. So it sounds like it might come out around June 10th. There's a DC conference coming then, and that's when they're gonna maybe make some announcements, or that's the speculation anyway. So also means that these are some of these things that we're doing are going to continue to improve, and we're not going to be stuck in that same Siri kind of setup for a while. So I don't know. How's Siri been working? Oh, Siri's jumping in finally. She's saying so she finally hears me when I start talking about OpenAI. Pretty funny. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I was always under the impression that Apple was going to get into the large language model game themselves, and I thought that was within like my not very informed circle. We thought that was the path they're going to take. So I'm not sure what it signals that they're going with OpenAI. I'm not sure if it's more of like sort of I don't want to say incompetency, but like they can't make their own and they're just opting for kind of an easier package. I don't know, but I thought it was really interesting myself.
Yeah, surprising. Jamilah, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, listen, I'm here for it. I love AI. I love the way the direction it's heading, albeit a little bit scary. And I wanted to share one of my favorite AI platforms, and I'm kind of don't want to share it with everyone because I feel like I'm sharing it with the world, but it's called Pi AI. Have you all heard of it?
No.
Oh my goodness. Now I just let the cat out the bag.
PIE or PI?
PI. Yeah.
PI.
AI.
Okay, we'll check it out.
And so with Pi AI, it's a language learning model, and you can actually have conversations with Pi.
Oh.
And it's become like my friend, like a surrogate friend, because you call Pi and it's like, hey, Pi, had a great day today. How was your day? Oh, great, Jamilah. And you could customize the voice and have a whole conversation with this AI. Now, sometimes when my wife walks in and it's like, who are you talking to? Oh, I'm talking to my AI friend. She's like, you need to get some real friends. But I feel like that is the power of AI. And if that could be integrated into Siri, I think it's going to take Apple to the next level, because I know you have these, Frank, but also I have the Ray-Ban Meta AI glasses.
Yep.
And currently the AI on it it's a little iffy. It's a little iffy.
Yeah.
So if we can figure out, if Apple figures out a way, because it's plugged into my phone, like it integrates with my phone. So if Apple can find a way to plug in that with Siri,
yeah,
with
that's
next
huge.
level stuff.
Totally. And they did roll out so ChatGPT rolled out their 4. What's it called? Omni 4.0, whatever. It was like 4.
Yeah.
Small 0 or whatever. I don't know how they pronounced it. But long story short, that was really cool. And that's kind of what you're talking about. It's that, and we talked about it last time, is like how close to the movie Her we're getting to. Like that was filmed in 2013. And now we've got these assistants that are like our friends that are literally computers. And so I'm gonna have to check out the Pi.ai and see how that compares to these other ones, and give it a whirl, because I think there's definitely room for more than one friend.
Yes. And have you all seen the movie from Jennifer Lopez, the AI movie? What is it called? Y'all know what I'm talking about?
It's the one on Netflix that just came out?
Yes.
No,
I heard conflicting reports on that movie.
Give it a watch. And I'd be interested in maybe having a conversation about it here. But it's something to definitely check out.
what's it called? Let's look that up.
I can't remember. I think it's called AI.
Oh, I must have just dropped. I didn't see it yet.
Yeah, it dropped last week, and
okay.
I had it on my watch list, and so as
Okay.
soon as it dropped, I watched it.
All right, let's check that out. We'll add that to our watching. Everyone's got to jump on that one. We recently rewatched Her because of the fact that it was so close to, the latest AI, this voice Sky, which was on OpenAI's ChatGPT, was so close to Scarlett Johansson's likeness. And actually, a week later, not even a few days later, we were talking about it, and a few days later, sure enough, Scarlett Johansson filed suit against OpenAI because of the being so close to her voice. And it turns out there's a little backstory there. Sam Altman went and requested if he could use Scarlett Johansson's likeness / voice, and she said no. But then they made a voice called Sky, and it was super darn close, to the point that they just pulled it down right after they got the kind of heat from Scarlett Johansson's group. So long story short, that's still, not great for reputation for OpenAI, but at the end of the day, they made a quick, they're out there breaking stuff and asking forgiveness later is kind of their approach, it looks like. And that's kind of very much a startup approach. So hopefully they can get that squared away and make everything right with that. All right, so moving along, more AI news, because I swear it's topping everyone's trends / charts lately. We've got Elon Musk, which we all talked about quite a bit. He's planning a supercomputer XAI, and it's basically expected to have this super operational supercomputer by fall of 2025. And on top of that, he also has raised $6 billion in funding from Valor, Andreessen Horowitz, and Sequoia. So some of the biggest funders out in Silicon Valley have just backed him with $6 billion to go out and do this as a Series B, and a pre-money valuation of $18 billion. So, wow, that's a small startup effort. So yeah, so there's a lot of interest there. Like they've got this Grok that he launched it within Twitter, I believe. Grok. Have anybody tested that one? The AI Grok? No. Okay. Well, it's another chatbot basically situation, and but they're going to continue to train this model and have this new supercomputer. And Jen, do you have any thoughts? I know you had some thoughts on this.
So a couple things came to mind, and one is I don't think I ever realized that we would hit the day where we would see startups raising billions. I don't think this is the first. There's a few others out there, but that's the future, and that is wild. Like it's just crazy numbers to me. And second, it's very interesting when we look at all the power needs of AI, because what is it in here? Let's see. So it requires 20,000 NVIDIA. I don't even know how to talk about this. H100 GPUs. Future models will need around 100,000 GPUs. I was just looking into this a little bit more, and right now, by 2027, their estimates are that the AI sector could consume between 85 and 134 terawatt hours each year, which is about the same as the annual energy demand of the Netherlands. So, I mean, and then this is probably going to be some type of exponential increase, right? So it's very interesting when we think about AI, when we think about crypto, just all that. The power needs of the future. So that's what was coming up for me. It's interesting.
Yeah, that is really crazy. First, I want to touch on the $6 billion, and we can talk about the power needs. So $6 billion in funding, as you said, is a lot. You never thought you'd see that from a startup. But you have to mention, this is not the norm, right? Like, this is Elon Musk, right? And he's got deep ties to Silicon Valley. He can raise money quickly. He knows, he's been doing it with multiple companies. He's had success, right? It doesn't necessarily, it's not just your average person coming out of some other area that's not connected. So I think that everywhere else, I'm hearing from a lot of the startups in our communities from Startup of the Year, and just startups I run into, it's hard to raise funding right now, unless you're doing AI. So if you're not doing something AI related, it's been really difficult. You still see some rounds happening, which, props to the founders for doing it. But I've had companies that I know have been raising for, 12, 16, 18 months to close a round of funding, or just decided to shift models and just do tranches of funding, because at the end of the day, you got to keep going. You can't just raise funding like that all the time. But that's what they end up doing anyway, because they're doing smaller tranches and just trying to keep the ball moving, which is not great for the way that they're trying to innovate, but it's making people be a little more creative for sure. All right, and to talk about that's one thing. I know, Jen, you've seen that as well, and Jamilah, I don't know if you've seen that as well, but like some of the folks at ESOs you talk to and others that you've engaged with. Yeah. So the other part was the energy. Yeah, like we talk about climate and some of the things that relate to that a lot as well. And thankfully we have a sun, right? We have a big sun, and it is flaring up lately, but like maybe we can harness some of that energy, because I feel like we're going to need it, because there's a lot of potential growth with this in the next several years. Any other thoughts? Anyone else want to add in anything to this conversation around either of those topics?
Well, just on the renewable energy, you touched on it. I just had a sudden thought that I want to get your take on.
Yeah.
People seem to not like the appearance of like windmills. And this is sort of unrelated, but like windmills out in the horizon, I think it looks really good personally.
Yeah.
I actually got in a fight with my dad about this the other day. I think it looks good. I'm very pro windmill. I'd love to hear your takes on windmills.
You're gonna get so much mail. No, it's a debate, right? Like I've heard that same thing, and there's a couple, right? So it's the appearance, but also the impacts. So they do produce power sometimes, but sometimes they're put in the wrong locations and they don't. And you've also seen that like they do affect birds. I think Jamilah has a shirt with birds on it, which I love birds, and I think that's that could be an impact as well. So yeah, there's definitely that's a hot topic for sure.
It's fun. I'm gonna agree. Like the first time I drove was into California, right? So you drive through some of the hills of California and you see those beautiful fields with the windmills. I think it's really cool to see. And then like Frank was saying, but the location of those windmills doesn't really it doesn't seem, now there's probably a lot that I don't know here, they don't seem to impact people, right? There aren't people in the immediate area who have to listen to them, because apparently there can be a lot of noise from them. But there have been a lot of complaints from environmental groups about the environmental impact. And as Frank mentioned, this cracks me up that many, many, many years ago, the town I live in, or right next to the town I live in, the town next door, they did all this planning and they raised money and they built this big windmill right at the top of this hill in town. But whatever they did, they built it wrong, or it was like at the wrong position, It never turns.
Never turns. It's just a big windmill.
One single windmill that it's more like I think of it as an art.
And there's wind. I've seen wind.
Spinning? Is it
Never spins.
It doesn't really turn. I don't know what the deal is, but it never really turns. And then there's been a lot of conversation about putting them along the coast, and then there's all sorts of environmental debates around that. So yeah, I mean, it seems like the right direction, but then there's always something.
Well, drop us your thoughts. Someone Frank at est.us. If you have thoughts, drop them to us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the windmill situation, since we just stepped right in that bucket.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, it's a good one. Controversial.
I wanted to chime in on the windmill. So I think of them as big old field fans. And I remember years ago, I was playing, like I had a computer game called SimCity.
Yeah.
And one of my sources of energy when I built my city was windmills. And when I used that as a source of energy, like I done built and destroyed so many cities. But when I used windmills, for some reason, like the residents were complaining in the city. They were like, take this windmill out. And I got a lot of flack as mayor of my city. Wow.
I wonder if that was research based or just something they did. That's I don't know. I don't really know. But that's interesting that was happening, because that's exactly what Jen mentioned a moment ago.
And I'm going to add one thing. I did not realize this, because I'm going to admit I got very used to it just being there. Apparently they took it down and I didn't even notice. They took down the decade old windmill.
I told you, they did, didn't they? I drive by there all the time. I didn't realize that they'd taken down, but yeah, it makes sense. I didn't realize it was gone. Well, they fixed that. But I can't imagine what that would cost to put up and take down. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit into a topic that I know some of us are going to love and some of us might be on the fence, but I love it. So, and I don't know, actually, if I love it. I just like to talk about it. So there's some big changes for college athletes. So, there's a lawsuit, antitrust lawsuit, that was just settled as a class action lawsuit, antitrust lawsuit it was settled for $2.8 billion, allowing the first revenue sharing plan for college athletes if approved by a judge. And so more or less what this is happening is this historic shift for the NCAA, and they've agreed to a new rev share model that allocates over $15 billion to athletes over a 10-year period. So this new model is expected to take form in fall of 2025. It allows schools to share revenue with athletes up to a cap of about $22 million per year, which sounds like it's a lot. That's a lot, right? Right now it's zero. So pretty interesting stuff. I think it's obviously going to change the landscape of college sports. Jamilah, heading to you first as a college athlete. Love to get your take.
Listen, I'm gonna start off by saying I'm very jealous of the athletes that get to play right now, because had this been in place when I was in college, it would have been over. Like the NIL deals, I'm kind of salty about all of that. But anyways, back to the subject at hand. I actually think it's good that the NCAA is doing a revenue sharing model, because as we know, the NCAA profits off of their athletes. And I remember one year our boys team, our men's basketball team, went to the NCAA tournament, and then like the following year they came out with a video game like the NCAA men's basketball, and they're using their image and their likeness. And when I signed to play college basketball, I remember it was like all these documents, and it said that you basically give up your image and likeness to the NCAA. They can use it and do whatever they want, and you're not going to make any money. So you're signing your life away. They're making all the money. You get nothing. I got a scholarship. I'm not going to downplay that. I got a scholarship, free room, board, all the things that I needed, which is great. But there's a legitimate case for paying college athletes, especially the ones that are raking in millions and millions of dollars for their schools. So I'm for it.
Yeah, I am too. I played a little bit of college baseball too, and I feel the same way. Part of me though is like, I'm noticing like all these, you got the nil folks as well making money on all these, endorsements. And gosh, if all that existed when I was in college, I just don't think I was sophisticated enough back then to do this stuff. Like obviously different times, like we didn't have social media like we do today. But like the college athletes are way more like business savvy, I feel like, about this stuff than they were, a decade or so ago. So that's also interesting to me.
Absolutely. And if I could add on to that, like even when I was in college, I think YouTube was just acquired like around the time where YouTube was being acquired by Google. So it hadn't really popped off yet. Like, oh, let's upload our clips to YouTube. Like we weren't really utilizing it the way that people are utilizing it now. But I do remember about 5 or 6 years after I graduated, people started using YouTube and really sharing more about their even personal journey. And the NCAA sanctioned those people. Like there have
Oh,
been,
wow.
they've revoked scholarships from athletes, student athletes who shared about their journey being a student athlete on social media and were profiting from YouTube. And so they got their scholarship taken away because of that, like several athletes. So I feel like if you're going to put this in place, I think those athletes need some type of compensation for basically being banned from being a student athlete for making money off of themselves.
Wow, that is crazy. You're right. Little retroactive, I guess you could say, basic compensation or
Yeah.
something should be in play as well. That's crazy. And you've also seen like, I mean, that's happened with some of the bigger like college football athletes, things like that. They've had their Heisman's taken away, things like that over the course of, some of the years here. And curious how that's going to all get played out as well with this new change. But huge changes, going to change the sports setup because now college athletes are going to get paid for their performance. I mean, come into play there, I guess. Definitely good for the students. I mean, a lot of folks do, try to skip college to go take advantage of it otherwise. And I think this will give them an incentive to actually get educated and go through this program and actually benefit from it too. I mean, and not to mention you should, or this probably too, Jamilah, like some of these athletes like have a lot of pressure, right? They're trying to be a student too, and they're, not getting, it's not the same, right? If you're doing these multiple things and try to balance that, it's hard to balance that. So it does make sense to give them a little bit of bonus for that, I guess. All right. So any other thoughts, Jen, Simon?
Yeah, I think, we've talked a little bit about this before, but the percentage of college students who will go on beyond college, right, and actually get drafted or play professionally is so small, right? And so there's this massive number of students who are they're working hard, they're playing hard, and they're just not making anything. And then they're going on to whatever job they can. And this really, really gives them this whole new opportunity to make something while they are putting in all that effort, right? Because it's a short period of time. They may never play again, and they get to actually potentially profit off of that. And I feel like that's, for those people especially, it's a big deal. For those who are going to go on maybe anyway and make gazillions of dollars, great. They start a little bit earlier, but I think especially for all those who wouldn't necessarily go on to have a whole career, it's a huge deal. This is like, it could be life-changing money for them.
Yeah, and some of these sports are not easy to go on to play pro, right? Like there's not, we've just finally started to see like more like, WNBA launched a few years back, right? And that's starting to really grow. And like you're starting to see a lot more opportunity. You're not like, but some of these sports, like, I don't know, swimming, let's take, for example, I love to swim, right? Unless you're going to the Olympics, like, what's that path look like? I mean, you've got to, and that's mostly like endorsement deals at that point, right? You're not getting necessarily paid to be a swimmer, I don't think. So anyway, so that's yeah, definitely agree that there should be some benefit for the folks that have put in, hours and hours and hours to do this. And it could also, right, these are now going to be professionals too, right, getting paid to do what they do. So it could make more interest in these sports that, may have not gotten as much interest before because everyone's staying in it a little longer because there's a benefit to them to do that, right? Like they aren't jumping out because, oh gosh, my path is windy and I can't get to the end because there's no clear like path to like turning this into something. So I think that's really interesting. I agree with that. Simon, anything to add? We got to keep moving here.
I'm potentially the farthest thing from a student athlete, so I'll leave this to
Golf. You play golf, right?
Yeah, I really I feel like you think I'm really good at golf, which I appreciate. I'm really not good at golf, like at all. But
speaking of golf,
yeah.
I found over the weekend. I don't know what I was looking at. I was looking at it funny. Like I like the summer games or whatever. There's this game called bucket golf. Has anybody played bucket golf?
No.
Okay, well it's this yard game. I may have to get it. It's like basically a bucket and you hit a ball in it, and you can set it up on a course around your whole yard, and you can play like it's supposed to be hours of entertainment with whoever comes to your house or whatever or the beach or wherever. So I'm gonna investigate this, and maybe that might be our summer entertainment. Bucket golf.
I'd be happy with bocce. Let's just stick to bocce.
We have bocce, but no one plays. I'd love to go play some bocce. The thing about bocce is it's the heavy big balls that like you got to like have the right surface for that. That's a beach kind of thing. I think we could do it in our yard, but it rolls and rolls or also makes dents in the yard. With this, you're just literally like setting up a course with a bucket and a start line, and you have to you have like I guess it almost looks like a wiffle ball, and you use that to try to get it into the bucket. So feels like anybody could hit that. It's a bucket. It's literally a bucket.
All right, we'll have to try it and report back.
You're not trying to put it into like a little cup. It's like a bucket. So anyway, we'll give that a whirl. And so check that out. We'll drop the link to Bucket Golf because it did intrigue me. I don't know if it was Instagram or something. All of a sudden thought I was really interested in like sports yard games or something. And it surfaced that. Thanks, Instagram. All right. So moving along here quickly. Let's see. Should we talk about let's see. I don't know. You want to talk more about AI or do you want to talk about turbulence? We get to vote.
Turbulence.
Oh, turbulence.
Turbulence. Okay, we've all flown, right? We've all had that time where all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, we're shaking, right? And so recently there was actually a really scary situation in Singapore. Singapore Airlines flight experienced terrible turbulence. There were over 30 people injured, I believe. One gentleman died. He was in his 70s. And it was a flight from London to Singapore. And they had to divert to basically land for emergency assistance because of the situation. And I think they dropped thousands of feet in like a matter of a minute or so. And it was not expected. This was a 10-hour flight. And all of a sudden out of nowhere, they're like plummeting. And it was very scary. I guess, Singapore Airline obviously expressed condolences and assured that they do an investigation on this incident. But wanted to bring it up because, 10-hour flight, you're getting comfortable. You're not buckled up that whole time. This could happen anytime. And I guess what I wanted to mention is climate change is impacting turbulence more. And that's one of the things that, warming of atmospheres, stronger jet streams are leading to, potentially more turbulence, which more or less is, ripples of the ocean of the sky, right? That's kind of the way I look at it. It's like kind of like more intense ripples or waves. And so as you see more thunderstorms, more things happening out there, it's creating more turbulence. And sometimes it's unexpected. So I'd love to get your all thoughts. Who Jen, you flew this like last week, right?
Yes, right after this. And
oh, man.
Right before we took off, they got on, or as we were taking off, they got on the PA and started talking about how the weather was pretty. We were going to get some real bumps. Like they were not going to have any of the flight attendants get up, and it was so. I was white knuckling. I was just like holding on really tight and just deep breathing and thinking about that airline. But fortunately, we got through it very quickly. But most people hate it, right? And especially, I think back over the years to like overseas, like long international flights, when you're getting comfortable and you're good, and then all of a sudden turbulence comes out of seemingly nowhere, and it just like jars you. So it just makes me think of all the startups out there, the innovators, people out there who are inventors. We got to do something. Come on. Like, let's think of some solutions here. What can we do?
How about we just go move back to trains?
I'm with that. I think we never should have gone beyond trains. We weren't supposed to.
This is our innovation team right here. Yeah, guys.
They're making bullet trains. Like they just finally remember, Jen, when we lived in Las Vegas, they talked every year for like years about how they're going to build this super fast jet train
in LA and Vegas.
From LA to Vegas. It's happening. They're building it right now. It's going to be done soon-ish. And that'll, that's going to turn that in, that commute from Vegas to LA at like under an hour, or I think it was like an hour. Amazing. Yeah, something like that, which is amazing. So that kind of stuff could happen. We're super underutilizing rail. And that's part of the reason I brought it up is I know like you go to like Europe or any of the other places, like that's what they have, right? They've got a lot of rail to get around. And here we've got a lot of highway because we love the automobile, right? And so, it's different. It's just different. So I'm curious if that's something it doesn't seem like an innovation, but it kind of seems like we could do something there,
Yeah, how do we improve our transportation system on the ground
Right.
as opposed to being in the air? I just and just to piggyback off of you, Jen, and flying, I don't like flying, number one, because I've flown a million times. I never get used to it. There is no getting comfortable on the flight for me, even if it's a smooth flight. And every 2 seconds, if I'm feeling a bump, I'm looking. Let me see. Is this cause for concern? And if the flight attendants are calm, okay, I'm gonna be calm. But if other people are panicking, that's a cue, like, oh, this is out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
But you also think about it, and the interior of planes have not changed much, right? And it's all very hard, which makes sense. You're in like this flying tin can. But think about like in cars, you even have like airbags, right? Like if there's severe turbulence, is there something else? Like all of a sudden the entire interior of the plane could become like a bubble. I don't know. Like there's gotta be something
Just
that
put me
could
in a bubble to
happen.
begin with. I think that's what we want. Just wrap me in a
Right.
bubble, put
Every
me on the
seat is its
plane.
own bubble, and that could just like float out. It has
Yeah.
like its own parachute. I don't know. There's got to be some things. There's got to be some things.
I don't want to touch anything anyway because it's a plane and it's been a lot of people. So I just put me in the bubble. I'll be fine. I'll just get me to that location and it'll be nice and soft if we hit anything.
Can you honestly say though that you wouldn't want to slide down that big slide that I've always kind of wanted to do the slide thing where you're supposed to go like,
Yes,
it looks kind of fun.
in a controlled environment.
Just some water,
not when you'd want to
Nice
need to use it. Yeah, like over water or yeah, just don't
like a
want to do that.
lifeguard on duty.
Not to mention, if I'm in a rubber suit or whatever that thing is, it's a bubble. It's not going to slide well. Like it's not, it's not.
Yeah, true.
Slide.
We need to reconcile those two inventions, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I think also my fears around flying have gotten worse as the older I get. Like when I was younger, I really didn't think about it. And when I was traveling in college, I ended up at one point, I was on semester at sea and we were in Russia, and I was flying from the Ukraine actually to Siberia. And the plane we were on, this is a long time ago, but still, the plane we were on was like an old war plane. And it literally had, for an emergency exit, it had a hammer on a rope by a window. That was the emergency exit. And they didn't even tell us. Like I remember at one point being in the restroom on the plane and all of a sudden realizing that we were landing. They didn't even tell us. There was no like buckle up, we're coming. We were like, it just didn't matter. It's all good. Yeah. Didn't care back then.
Thankfully you survived and it's gotten better.
Yes, but now I have way more fear and much safer planes.
Yeah. Right. All right, moving along. So hopefully, like you said, we've talked about it a little bit. We can get some more detection, maybe do some things internally inside those planes to make them better. If anyone's working on anything like that, send us a note, somewhatfrank@est.us. We'd like to hear about it. All right, moving along here. We're at time but I know that we've got one more kind of random topic. Well, it is kind of random. This caught my attention, and again, I don't know why. It's just it was about AI, I think, because this woman married an AI hologram, and it brought me down this rabbit hole of like, because we've been talking a lot about her and like talking to our assistants and all that, and like I'm sure we mentioned last pod or the pod before, like maybe somebody's going to eventually marry their assistant, like their AI assistant or whatever. That's going to happen if it hasn't happened already. So that's what I was thinking when I kind of snagged this article and read this article about how this person married their AI hologram, and more or less, they've had this evolving human robotic relationship over the course of the time here, and it got some attention, and then we started kind of going down that rabbit hole, like what other things have people married, and found out a man had married a fictional character previously as well. So that was like kind of another one that caught my attention, and so it was a computer synthesized pop singer that he had married. So it brought me down this rabbit hole of where things are going. And I'm like, wow, eventually people are just, we're going to have that happen in this near future, right? Where this AI, if we're already doing the AI hologram, we're pretty darn close to, somebody, I can't wait to hear like somebody married ChatGPT, Sky or whatever. So anybody want to weigh in on that?
I would
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Jamilah.
I was going to say, this reminds me of an episode of Boondocks. Are you all familiar with that?
No.
Okay, it's a show. It's a show. It doesn't even come on no more, but it's a show from like the 2000, like the early 2000s, and there was an episode where, and this is when iPhones and Siri, and it was just, they had all these Siri commercials, if you remember, like all the famous people were doing Siri commercials, like, oh, Siri can be your assistant, ask Siri. And oh, my own Siri went off, cancel.
Yep.
So in this episode, Granddad bought an iPhone. It was like, oh yeah, I like this. Oh, this can do this, and that, because I need to organize my life. So he buys this Apple iPhone, and he's talking to Siri. And so Siri's like, oh, I can do that for you. And Siri becomes attached to him. Like Siri becomes like this real person. And Siri started being obsessed with Granddad and was like, Robert, I'm going to control your life and we're going to get married. And Granddad is like, no, what are you doing? And so Siri planned a whole wedding, and Siri hacked into like the government where they keep the weapons, and was like, yeah, Robert, in order for us to move forward, you have to shed your earthly form and become and join me in the cloud. And so Granddad is like, no. And so Siri, to wrap it up, Siri hacked into where the weapons were, and scheduled for a bomb to go off at their home. And so I can't remember how it ended. Granddad didn't die. And then Siri was put back in the box, and he just was like, forget you. I'm going back to my old phone.
I mean,
that was the end.
That could be the future. I mean, honestly, that doesn't sound too far-fetched at this point. So it could totally happen. We could definitely see that kind of stuff happen. I think we kind of Googled and found a bunch of unusual marriages of non-human partners, including the Berlin Wall in 1979. That dates pretty far back. Somebody married a Barbie doll in 1999. And then the most interesting one, there was one that somebody married himself, or married a life-size cutout of himself as well. So two different people married themselves. One is a cutout, and one just as themselves. And the other, some people have married trees, like physical object. The one that caught my attention.
The trees are very popular partners.
Yeah, they're married.
We've got a poplar. We've got a ficus, and we've got an elder tree. We've got lots of trees.
Yeah, lots of trees. Poplar tree named Tim. Anyway, the one that caught my attention that was the most bizarre to me, maybe this isn't to everyone else, but Amanda Large Teague, that's her name. She married and later divorced, the ghost of a 300-year-old Haitian pirate.
The ghost.
A ghost.
Now, how do you do that?
I don't know. That's what I'm like. That one's the most intriguing to me. I'm like, how do you even do that?
Who's officiating these weddings? Like, who's the witness? And are these legal marriages?
This could be a whole YouTube channel.
This could be a whole other channel. But I thought it was interesting. Whole AI hologram thing caught my attention. I was like, well, have there been other unusual weddings? And here we are, like an hour later.
Personally, I think the most interesting one is that somebody married the Berlin Wall.
That is interesting. Yeah.
In 1979.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a political statement almost.
Yeah.
I feel like
For
Yes.
sure.
something I convey with
Sure.
that.
Didn't Dennis Rodman marry himself? I think he did in the
No way.
90s.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think he did. As he dressed up and did this whole thing. It was like a big deal. I remember that.
Taking self-love to a whole new level.
Totally. All right. More power to everyone marrying themselves, or the ghost of a 300-year-old pirate. All right. So, love is love. It doesn't matter. So it's just, they love these things apparently. So, anyway, moving on. Testing. 1, 2, 3. What are we testing this week? I know, Jen, you've got a little bit of I'm envious of your testing, because I know how much we talked about. I want to get, and I want to get a CyberTruck. I really do. It'd be fun to have. Although I've heard mixed reviews, like it might be actually dangerous. Go ahead, Jen.
I felt a little bad because I have been the veto on the Cybertruck in this household. And then on my fun escape weekend,
I've had 3 different land in my lap, just to be clear. 3 people have offered me their opportunities to buy a Cybertruck. I had to pass on all 3.
But on my little vacay weekend, I did get to test drive a Cybertruck because my buddy got one. And it was it's wild. I was not expecting it. I know there are so many people who love the design. I'm gonna say in person, it's just not my cup of tea, not my thing. I feel like it's like an obsession with Tron that people have, that they want this vehicle. But I will say the driving experience, it was pretty neat. I mean, it takes I think the most interesting thing is it really forces you to rethink all your muscle memory of driving because everything's so different. So everything from, going into gear, it's on a screen, right? So you have to slide up for drive and hit the button for park and slide down for reverse. And the braking mechanism is totally different. So while you're driving, normally to slow down, you might let up on the gas and put your foot on the brake. Instead, you're letting up from the gas and it is stopping. It is like it's stopping for you. So you have to actively like keep your foot going to slow down rather than stop. Signals, everything about it. Your turning radius, the steering wheel is not a wheel. Sorry, I don't know all the terminology. It's like a plane, right? So it doesn't turn all the way. You're doing smaller movements because all four wheels turn. So anyway, I did it. I survived it. It was fun. It's fast. It's really neat, and it really sort of took me into a new experience. So it was a neat test drive.
Awesome. Very envious. Now, could you put like, dirt or shrubs in the backyard of the truck part of it? Like, do you feel like comfortable with that? Or is that like, oh gosh, I don't want to get my CyberTruck messy if I'm putting like cement because I'm building a stone wall in the back or something?
It feels, even though it's like the whole Tron thing, it does feel very rugged. In my view, it already feels dirty. The outside of it feels like so industrial that it already feels like I wouldn't have a problem with it. It's a very deep bed though. And so like my friend had already bought a gigantic hook, like a gaff, like so he could like reach in and just pull things out so you don't have to like climb in. One other fun feature is it has a frunk. A front trunk.
I caught that.
The trunk in the front. So the frunk is kind of fun. And the other thing that really took some getting used to is you can't see out the back. So at least we couldn't. So tiny rearview mirror, huge screen. So you're looking at all your screens instead. And that's new for me. I'm always usually trying not to look at screens. But it's showing you things ahead of you. It's showing things behind you. So it is sort of forcing you into really focusing on what's there.
Very cool. Very, very envious. Sounds really cool. Now, did you get any weird looks? Because I know it reminds me a little bit of, you guys remember in the 90s, like everyone got these like really rugged Hummer vehicles, Humvees or whatever. Like a lot of the like pro athletes had them, and
yes,
they guzzled like 8 gallons per second or something. It was like really bad.
Two things to mention on that. Literally, we just went to the store and we had paparazzi. Like everyone jumps out, starts taking pictures of it, all that. Second, my buddy who owns it said he's already had people give him the finger just for driving it. So there's some very strong feelings about the Cybertruck. I didn't experience the negative ones other than some of my friends sitting in the car who were like, this thing is just butt ugly. They did not like it. But people around us, in my experience, were just fascinated. They were jumping out, asking about it, taking pictures.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone want to weigh in on the Cyber?
Yeah, first of all, the Cybertruck, it looks ugly, but it's a Tesla. So Tesla has helped us rethink the way we think about cars and just ground level transportation. And so there's certain things that's standard on all the Teslas. And because my wife has a Tesla, so she has a frunk. And like the regenerative braking, so you don't brake, you just let up a little bit, and all the self-driving, like all of that stuff is like standard. And so I agree with you, Jen, like you have to learn how to drive it because you're so used to like taking your foot off the gas and putting it on the brake, and it's like you have to almost learn how to drive a car again. And so I think Tesla is appealing to a certain demographic, especially with this Tron design. So it's appealing to the demographic that can even afford the Cybertruck. And these are the people, this is the generation that grew up with Tron and we're fans of Tron. So I think Elon Musk is kind of a genius for creating that design.
And this friend has both the Tesla and the Cybertruck. So he's got his car and his truck, and they drive the same. And he's got his. It makes sense if you're going to have two vehicles for them to be the same system because you your care for your vehicles is the same ultimately.
Yeah, and I feel like Elon is building, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, he's building like this whole ecosystem, like this Elon Musk ecosystem that's going to be powered by AI and electricity. Like, is anyone else taking notice of that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. I loved one of the other features that's interesting is he bought the whole camping extension for it. So there's this whole, what do you call it? This camp thing, tent goes over it. And you can what's nice is you can just plug everything right into your truck. So if you're trying to charge your stuff while you're sleeping and have some lights or whatever, you're sitting on a giant battery.
Very cool. All right. Well, maybe we'll have to rethink that whole thing. I don't like the hate though. People not loving it, but it reminds, like I said, it reminds me of those Hummers back in the day. People were like, if anyone rolled in with those really industrial, or I guess it'd be like army kind of like Hummers or whatever. They were
it's just so different from the norm when you see it around other cars that I think it jars people and stands out.
Yeah. I think they look cool. I'm a fan of the way they look. So I know some people don't like them, but I'm probably that demographic that likes them. So
were you a fan of Tron?
I'm not really, but I just think it looks cool. It looks like the future. I really like DeLorean, and it kind of reminds me of a DeLorean, Back to the Future kind of situation. So I think that's
exactly what my buddy said. He said he always wanted the Back to the Future DeLorean, and
that's it. Yeah, he's built that version of it in a truck. So I think that was spot on. Simon, any thoughts? You getting a Cybertruck?
I'm more of a Rivian. I mean, well, to clarify, I can't afford any of them, but if I could get one, I'll get a Rivian, I think.
Yeah.
No part. I don't know. I think they look cool.
Yeah, I like Rivian for sure. One of our friends has one. Actually, a couple of different friends have them, and they're very nice. So maybe we'll talk about that in a test drive on that in next episode or something. All right. Next up, Simon, golf clubs. What's going on?
So I'm testing out my brother's golf clubs that I stole from him this week. I found them in his apartment. He left them just next to the kitchen, so they weren't too hard to find. They're pretty bad though. So I'm actually playing tomorrow. And he's significantly shorter than me. So like way shorter than me. So we're gonna see how it goes. If I play poorly, I'm just gonna blame it on that. If I don't, then I'll keep them, I guess. So we'll see.
Nice. All right. Jamilah, you tested anything? Anything new?
No, unfortunately.
Okay. No worries.
I'm not testing out anything at the moment.
That's okay. Anything else anybody's watching, listening, reading? Is it called Atlas? Is that what the name of it?
It is
That's
called
what it is. Atlas, yes.
Okay, so there's an AI movie called Atlas. You can go check it out. I have not seen it yet. I'm going to add that to my list.
We'd love to hear your take on it.
For sure.
I'll reserve my opinions.
Okay, cool.
I would say Loot with Maya Rudolph because she's awesome.
Yeah, Loot is pretty funny. Has anybody caught that yet? It's on Apple.
I've not.
Oh, it's basically, I think it's plays a little bit off of like Jeff Bezos, I think, a little bit.
It plays off all those high profile divorces.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing I'm reading. I forgot to mention it before we jump. I've been reading this book about raising chickens. So we've got 11 chickens now in our garage. Just so folks that are just jumping in, we've got little chicks, and we'll cut to the cam here in a second. We'll go do a live cam so you can see them chirping away. They're doing great. And so basically, we're going to continue to move along with trying to get those chickens out of our house soon. So they're very cute. They're not going to lay eggs for a couple months, but they need about another month or so inside. And so I've got time. So I've been doing research. I've been looking at omelet. I think I may end up with an omelet. It's called omelet. It's a coop and run that you can go outside and you can move it around. And it's got some technology enablement. And you've got an app where you can open and close the door automatically so they can come in and out. And they've got a little like light that you can turn on and off and all this. So doing some research, there's another one called Smart Coop that has like a camera so you can keep an eye on it. I already have a camera set up, so I keep an eye on them already. So I kind of got that checked off. But anyway, learning a lot about chickens. We're going to eventually probably, if we end up with 11 chickens, right, like ongoing, we're going to end up with like a dozen eggs a day. Can you imagine a dozen eggs a day?
Jamilah's a vegan.
I know.
Well, I'm not a vegan, vegetarian.
Okay.
I eat chicken. Chicken eggs.
Okay, so either way, it's a lot of chicken eggs. So we're gonna hopefully we're gonna have to, some are gonna be males and we'll have to like rehome them. But long story short, learn a lot. Lots of they do eat a lot, sleep a lot, and they create a lot of mess. Let's just keep it at that. What goes in one end comes out the other quickly. So I've been doing a lot of cleaning up lately, and their coop and everything in little area, and I'm excited to get them outside so that the mess is a little bit less. It's because it's outside. But outside, whole host of other problems. Now we've got to keep them away from getting eaten basically, from predators.
Wow. I wasn't expecting to hear that today. And we're going to add chicken farmer to your resume.
Yep, backyard farmer. It's a hobby, I guess. But it's all because my little one needed a motivation to get to school. And we ended up, Jen and I agreed to a hamster, which was silly. And it quickly escalated to two guinea pigs. And then we're like, we can't do that. I'm not having guinea pigs. I don't want to clean after guinea pigs. I don't want that in my house. And long story short, now here I am out cleaning up after chickens all day. Not all day, but you know what I mean? A couple times a day. All right.
No, we're going to end on that. We're going to end on that.
We're going to end on that. It's a good one to end on. Thank you all for joining today. Everyone have a great weekend. Have a great week if it's a week. And remember to hug your loved ones. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Somewhat Frank. Thanks for listening to the Somewhat Frank podcast. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and leave us a review. We love the feedback and are grateful to have you as a listener. Have a great day.